Hi, I'm Alex Cheetham and this is my paper for the 2022 Derby Public History Symposium. My paper is entitled Lessons from Bolzano. How can the recontextualisation of fascist monuments in Italy help to understand and reconcile with difficult heritage? As of 2022, there are many physical remnants of Italy's fascist past, but the issue lies within the way that they are displayed for the consumption of those that encounter these monuments. Italian architecture has been left devoid of modern interpretation, creating space for the re-emergence of far-right beliefs. This paper will seek to explore the recontextualisation of difficult heritage, looking at the case study of Bolzano. The small town in the northern region of South Tyrol has been able to reconcile with their difficult heritage by using space and visual culture. In 2014, a group of historians and artists were brought together to resolve the increasingly divisive and emotionally charged dispute on how to publicly display overtly fascist imagery without their removal. Together they found a creative solution to maintain the artistic integrity of the monuments, whilst turning them into symbols of anti-fascism, reclaiming their heritage from far-right activists. The Monument to Victory was transformed into a space for learning and critical reflection through the installation of a permanent exhibition beneath the monument. Additionally, the Bolzano tax office, adorned with fascist iconography, now displays an anti-fascist quote from Holocaust survivor Hannah Arendt, stating, "Nobody has a right to obey." This paper will argue that through this solution, it has become possible to satisfy the needs of conflicting identities within South Tyrol, neutralising the threat of growing far-right ideologies. Furthermore, this model offers a potential solution for other countries facing similar issues surrounding identity, memory and reconciliation, encouraging people to critically reflect on their built heritage. Over the last decade, there has been significant academic interest surrounding Italy's fascist past and the reintegration of architecture within their national heritage. Joshua Arthurs argues that fascist monuments in Italy, such as the Foro Italico, have been left devoid of modern interpretation, allowed to speak for themselves, creating space for a re-emergence of illiberal far-right ideologies. Additionally, Arthurs draws from a broader analysis of the use and reuse of space, such as the German policy of calculated neglect, allowing for the Nazi Party rally grounds in Nuremberg to gradually crumble, demonstrating the absurdity of Hitler's thousand-year Reich. Despite opening a dialogue surrounding the idea of fascist heritageization, Arthur's solution remains vague, as the suggestion of a form of explanation can take many different shapes. However, the recontextualization of monuments takes explanation a step further, critically challenging the way that people encounter fascist remains. Nick Carter and Simon Martin have built upon Arthur's assessment, arguing that the approach taken by the Italian government to restore the Foro Italico without commemoration to reintegrate rather than critically preserve normalizes the presence of fascist iconography. Within this argument, Carter and Martin suggest that uncritical preservation does not have to lead to improper identification with these monuments, but can act as a means to maintain uncomfortable memory within the city. They draw a comparison to the preservation of Nazi buildings in Germany at a time where many were demolished. However, within the context of modern-day Italy, there has been a significant revival of the popular memory and rehabilitation of fascism. The recontextualization of the Bolzano monuments has already proved to be effective in neutralizing the threat of far-right activism, putting a stop to to the gatherings that took place outside the Monument to Victory through the desacralisation of a fascist relic. Within present-day Italy, there has been a growth of right-wing populism and neo-patriotism. This can partly be attributed to the lack of critical preservation of past monuments normalising their presence within society. As Arthurs argues, this has created space for a re-emergence of far-right ideologies. The Italian government's current policy towards these monuments has been reintegration without commemoration. One example is the reuse of the Foro Italico, originally known as the Foro Mussolini, serving as a venue for major party rallies in the late 1930s. The site was renamed the Foro Italico in 1943 after the Allied liberation of Italy, becoming a major sporting venue in the 1950s. More recently, Luigi Montanarini's hypothesis of fascism displayed within has been subject to controversy in the way that it's been displayed. The Stadio Olimpico continues to be the home of rival football clubs Lazio and Roma. Its restoration without contextualization has normalized the presence of fascism within Italy. Carter and Martin argue that there is a danger that restored artworks and monuments will once again connect at some deep instinctual level with present-day audiences, just as they spoke to Italians during the dictatorship. Therefore, such artworks and monuments require interpretation to confront difficult memory and reconcile with the past, to challenge their narrative. Additionally, Hannah Bologna argues that despite officially being an anti-fascist state, Italian people remember fascism in different ways depending on their local context and personal circumstances and sympathies. Malone believes that these divisions were created in the 1990s by revisionists after the Cold War ended, resulting in the collapse of the Italian Communist Party, creating space for the rise of far-right beliefs attempting to rehabilitate Mussolini's regime. This has led to the politicisation of fascist memory within Italy, as recent efforts to preserve the memory of fascism have been shaped by contemporary politics, neglecting difficult aspects of their heritage to promote ideas of nationalism. Therefore, it is becoming increasingly necessary to critically preserve these monuments through education and recontextualisation to desacralise fascist remains, preventing the rise of far-right beliefs. The recontextualisation of monuments in Bolzano has proved to be an effective model to critically preserve fascist remains within Italy, satisfying the needs of conflicting identities and cultures. Within this region there has been a long history of conflicting culture between the German-speaking minority and the Italian-speaking majority. The region was once a part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire before its annexation in 1919, after the First World War, whereby the German-speaking population was the majority. South Tyrol was subject to intense Italianisation under Mussolini's regime, effectively banning the German language. The Bolzano Monument to Victory was one of many buildings dedicated to the glory of fascism, purposely located in this region as a statement to the defeated Austria, as well as attempting to assimilate the German-speaking population. In 2014, a permanent exhibition called Visita 1845, One Monument, One City, Two Dictatorships, was opened in the crypt beneath the monument, deciding not to focus on the 2 years of Nazi occupation, but the 20 years of fascist repression under Mussolini's dictatorship. Its purpose was to find a creative solution to appease both the German-speaking and Italian-speaking populations. To the German-speaking population, the monument is a symbol of Italian repression against their culture, advocating for its removal. However, the Italian-speaking population believe it should remain, as it is a war memorial to those that died in the First World War. as well as being a historic monument with significant architectural value. The concept was aimed to foster a greater understanding of Italian history, stating that by awakening a deeper interest and inquisitiveness, can we create a bridge to history that enlightens visitors in a way that they can experience. The exhibition seeks to critically interpret the monument, providing two pathways through the museum. The outer pathway seeks to explore the history of Bolzano from the transfer of power from Austria to Italian rule, documenting the Italianization of the region. The inner pathway focuses on the monument itself, examining its creation, use, and present condition. It also includes 4 specialised rooms tackling key issues, discussing the nature of monuments, elements within the design, and the present role of monuments within society, to contextualise the current debate surrounding the monument's future. The BBC has reported that the creation of this exhibition has been a huge success, praised by politicians and civil society members from both communities. Therefore, the contextualisation of this monument has been a success, enabling the population to confront and reconcile with the difficult nature of their heritage, finding common ground between the different community groups. Therefore, the critical preservation of this monument challenges the way that people encounter their heritage, becoming a space for meaningful education. This model of recontextualisation has also been a success in putting a stop to far-right rallies that once took place outside the monument. As Alex Sakalis argues, the efforts made managed to neutralise extremist rallies that were blighting the city. The desacralisation of fascist monuments is most evident within the reinterpretation of the tax office. Artists Arnold Holzknecht and Michel Bernardi decided to emblazon a quote from Hannah Arendt, stating, "Nobody has a right to obey." Their aim was to take a building with an explicitly fascist rhetoric and recontextualise it as an anti-fascist monument. The powerful statement serves to challenge the way that people encounter this public space, using visual culture to promote liberal ideas, inclusivity and diversity, as the statement is repeated in the 3 main languages of Italian, German and Latin within the region. Education is therefore the key to tackling prejudice, stifling the rise of far-right beliefs in this area, recontextualising their sacred monuments, turning them into symbols of anti-fascism. So, how can this model of recontextualisation from Bolzano be replicated elsewhere, considering the context of other Italian monuments and similar issues from around the world? Throughout Italy, there are a number of fascist-era monuments remaining, left unchallenged by modern interpretation. However, the most prominent is the Foro Italico, including Luigi Montanarini's Apotheosis of Fascism, as well as the Mussolini obelisk. Rome is at the heart of Italy as a capital city, but it is within this space the normalisation of fascism is most present. The polarising politics of Rome is most evident from the link between politics, identity and football, as currently the Stadio Olimpico within the Foro Italico is the shared home of the teams Lazio and Roma. This has resulted in one of the fiercest home rivalries in football. However, the history of these clubs is steeped within political identity, with Lazio maintaining a right-wing fan base, whereas Roma has its roots within the working class neighbourhood of Testaccio. Lazio has a long-established connection with fascism, as the club only survived the merging of Alba, Fortitudo and Roman to form AS Roma due to the allegiance and political identity of their fascist supporters in the 1920s, including Mussolini himself. Mussolini saw football as a means to reinforce national identity and advertise the new fascist Italy on the international stage. Francesco Riccati has argued that the Lazio ultra fans have used the venue to increase the visibility of their neo-fascist beliefs. Therefore, politics is deeply rooted within Italian national identity and everyday life, making recontextualization in Rome more complex in contrast to Bolzano's localized identity. Nevertheless, as Arthurs has rightly argued, the lack of modern interpretation has led to the rise of far-right movements in Italy, as neo-fascists have begun to use the Mussolini obelisk as a sacred site, viewing the Foro Italico as a demonstration of the achievements of fascism. A similar approach taken towards a tax office in Bolzano, recontextualizing the monument, may prove effective in desacralizing its meaning, challenging the normalization of the obelisk. Additionally, the Foro Italico is a perfect location for a museum, creating space for meaningful education and modern interpretation. As an active venue for sports, it generates high levels of tourism and has a large presence within public memory. This model can be applied to fit alternative contexts outside of Italy. Spain has adopted a policy of removing all traces of their fascist past. Nevertheless, the Valley of the Fallen, containing the remains of General Franco, has been the centre of recent political dispute regarding whose memory and heritage is preserved at the site. Furthermore, recent events in Britain have demonstrated a need for the critical preservation of statues and monuments attached to key issues such as slavery, brought to the forefront by the Black Lives Matter protests that toppled the Colston statue in Bristol. The statue now remains in a display at Shed in Bristol to start a citywide conversation about its future, alongside a selection of placards from the protest. Despite the apparent difference in context, the same methodology can be applied here. Overall, the model of recontextualization can be effectively used at other sites across Italy and possibly other countries as well. This model can be adopted to fit different situations depending on their context through the redefinition of space using visual culture. In conclusion, the model of recontextualization used within Bolzano has proved to be a highly effective method for the reconciliation with difficult heritage that has been an increasingly divisive issue over the last 30 years in Italy. The use of visual culture to challenge the normalization of a fascist presence has created space for critical reflection and meaningful education. This has ultimately changed the way that people encounter these monuments through the desacralization of space. This model can be adopted to fit other sites across Italy, such as the Foro Italico, with its own unique history, critically preserving the site through recontextualization and careful consideration. However, within the context of the current political atmosphere in Rome, this may present greater challenges for reinterpretation. This model can also be used to form the basis of heritage interpretation across the world in countries such as England and Spain, creating space for critical engagement with heritage. Overall, the recontextualization of monuments is a promising means of critically preserving built heritage, creating space for meaningful education and reconciliation. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the paper. I apologise for any mispronunciations and enjoy the rest of the symposium.